Yes. Well, I'm glad to see you. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me this desk as well. So we're here with the title Travel Light. I'm a pastor in Peine with my husband, and the Ecclesia in Lehrte and in Braunschweig, and here in Göttingen. We're all doing this together, and I'm glad to be here today. And I'm saying hello from Mark, who's in Braunschweig today, and he's giving that service there. It's such an honor that you have Mark here. Honor him and his wife. They're such gifts. When you see him, let him know what you celebrate about him. It's such an honor that he's here in this church and that he's building kingdom here with you guys. And I'm glad that I got invited to be here in this church in Göttingen. I was here many years ago. I was a lot younger. And was running around this building with Annie. So it's such a privilege to be here now to continue down this road with this service series, Travel Light. We're on part 2, and we decided that in this Christmas time we want to get rid of some burdens that we have on our shoulders, because Jesus came to seek and to save what was lost. And me, with my burdens, I'm so lost. So I'm so glad that Jesus came, and that's something that we can think about in this Christmas time, and that we can remember that Jesus went to the cross for our burdens, and Jesus has freedom for us. And today we want to talk about a second thing that we want to let go of. Today I want to talk about something that I believe is being found in everybody's life every now and then. It's the topic of bitterness. I'm inviting you, let go of bitterness. Maybe you're here like me in the beginning of this week, like me, I'm not bitter. Bitterness, that's something for people who are always angry, who never have joy. Bitterness, that's not for me. Maybe for somebody else, maybe I'm thinking of a friend, I'll send him this service, but for me, no, this is not a topic. And if you feel this way, then I want to invite you to join me on this journey, because we want to have a look at what bitterness is and what dangers it brings with it. Because I pray that everybody today can let go of bitterness today, because it's keeping us captive. And I want to pray in the beginning, and then we can start right away with letting bitterness go. Lord, I thank you that you're here with us, that you have new things planned for us, that you have freedom for us, and that where we carry around burdens, you have freedom for us. And I thank you for what you've done in my heart in the preparation of this service, and I pray that your words will speak to me today and to everybody here in this room and on the live stream today, and that we can know that everything that we have, we can leave it with you. Today we need encouragement, and I pray that this will be an encouragement for everybody today. And I'm glad for those that are joining us online. Well, it's awesome that you decided to also join us from home. Bitterness is something that really is very heavy, because it's not always obvious from the beginning. It's very hidden, it's like in the shadows. The author of the letter to the Hebrews, he talked about this as a root. Roots you don't usually see, only if it's like a really big tree, but usually you don't see it. And bitterness is like a root that's growing under the surface, and that grows and becomes bigger and can really grab hold. And that just happens automatically. And when we're stressed out and we're bitter and we're angry, maybe when we have trouble at home, when we always have to fight on Christmas parties and celebrations, maybe if your boss is teasing you or is bullying you, or maybe your partner hurts us. Maybe sometimes past hurts, they're like a sting in our hearts, or maybe the refusal that we felt earlier in our lives, they really hurt us. And what stays is like disappointment. That's like a root that really grabs a hold. In situations where we feel refusal and it's like a seed that's being planted, and it just starts to grow. We can't even really see it, but it starts to grow. But a pain that's there for a long time, it can come up when you come into a similar situation as the one that caused this pain. This small seed has very strong roots. And maybe a situation started to really stick to our life. These sentences that were said to us, maybe even the lack of some words like "I love you" or "I'm so proud of you" from your father, or the continuous refusal of your great ideas at work, they can become like a sting that's in your heart. And this disappointment will give your and my life a bitter flavor. Because these negative thoughts, they can sneak into our lives, and they just hold on to our life. And I thought bitterness is a great topic, because this is something I don't even deal with. So I can give a lot of great tips, but God talked to me and reminded me of a situation that now I can say, I can smile about it, but I had to realize, well, that situation really gave my life a bitter flavor. I don't know if you know the situation, but I love gifts. At Christmas, it's the high season of gifts. I love it. This is the best. I always find an occasion to give a gift. I visit somebody, I'll bring a gift. Anytime, I'll always have a good occasion to give a gift. I love doing that. And I love expressing my love to my husband, Lucas, with gifts. Even though he might not always understand this love language, because he would probably prefer words of affirmation. And this year, at his birthday, I thought, well, I'm going to give him a really good gift. And I thought I had a great idea for one, because a few days after his birthday, I knew we were going to travel, and he has Birkenstocks, those German sandals, and his Birkenstocks really looked very used, so I thought, that would be a good idea to get him new Birkenstocks. And also there was a book that a pastor in America wrote and gave to his team. He gave this book to his team. And I wanted to give this book to my husband as well, and I was like excited to give it to him. And then on his birthday, Lucas unwraps his gift on his birthday, and there was none of that excitement that I was feeling to be seen on his face. He was already telling what kind of gift it was going to be when he saw the book and the wrapping, and there was no excitement at all, no joy. And he unwraps the Birkenstocks and he's like, "Oh, cool, but, well, they didn't fit." And I was just thinking, you know what, I got a great gift, and I even got the same size as his old Birkenstocks, but they don't fit, and my gift just really was not a great gift at all. And the worst thing was, a few hours later, we would drive to my parents, and he gets some gifts, and you can see here his reaction to his gifts at his parents' house, at my parents' house. And so he gets gifted to Alexis, and he's like excited, cool, technical devices. And then for my brother-in-law, he gets like a pet sander, and he was excited, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't expect this." He was really happy about this, and was carrying around his tools and everything. And I was just like, "Are you serious? You weren't even excited about my gift?" And I was just saying, like, this cannot happen. How can this happen? How can these gifts that don't even have like such an emotional worth just don't get that same kind of reaction as my gifts got? So I was thinking, you know what? From this point on, I won't even give you any gifts. And there was a seed of disappointment planted in my heart. I thought, he will probably never really be excited about my gifts. I was disappointed about myself, that I didn't really know what he would like. I was disappointed with the gift, and I was disappointed about Lucas. And I realized this seed really started growing. Bitterness was seeded in my heart in that moment, and it started influencing my thoughts. And the author of the letter to the Hebrews he shows us that there are two things happening when we have bitterness. So we want to read this verse together. It's just one verse in Hebrews. It's verse 15 in chapter 12. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. I think there are two things that bitterness can do in our lives, and one thing has to do with yourself. I believe that bitterness poisons you. Bitterness is something that you decide to have. You don't make a conscious decision about it. So today, if I can decide one thing, I'll be bitter. No, that's not what's happening. Bitterness just moves into our lives casually, and it's starting to become a sting in our life. And those things that we don't forgive, they start to grow and they start to take root. And then bitterness starts stealing your joy. Your thoughts and your words will focus on the positive things, but they will focus on the negative things that happen. Your words become more negative, more hopeless, and you're just discontent. And we hold on to those things that really hurt us deeply. Where we experience something that really hurt us. Maybe you start to be angry with yourself, maybe you become angry with God, and maybe you become angry with those people that really hurt you. Your joy will be taken from you, and sadness, anger, and maybe even rage will start moving into your life. And at the same time, bitterness is so focused on the past that everything else just becomes hidden, and we don't even see everything else. We just start focusing on this one situation, this one person that maybe once hurt us. That situation maybe 2 years ago, maybe yesterday, or just maybe something that really ruined your day one day. They start really defining our days and our thoughts, and we can't get out of this. All we can see is the past. And bitterness, it really keeps us captive. So we start thinking there's no way out of this. We don't see any exit out of this situation. We just give up. Hope, I don't believe in hope anymore. Forgiveness, nah, it's too difficult to forgive. No, I cannot forgive this. And I was feeling the same way. My joy in giving gifts was taken away. I love giving gifts, but in that moment, that joy was taken from me. I was really in a bad mood on my husband's birthday because it was really hurting me that he didn't feel any joy about my gift. And when I started thinking about Christmas, I just thought, well, my gift, maybe it will again just cause this kind of reaction where he would be more happy about the gift my mom gives him than my own gift. Will I actually know what he likes? And my joy was taken from me. And I kept thinking about the past, how he reacted on his birthday. Bitterness really poisoned me and my joy, and it also took away my focus. But not only that, I was bitter. I was staying bitter, but my life got a bitter flavor. And at the same time, our relationship, because bitterness poisons not only you, but also your relationships. Where you find unforgiveness, and negative thoughts about somebody, you will also find bad mouthing, bad talking, because somehow this anger about the situation must find an outlet, and we start talking bad about that situation or that person because this sting or this pain is so deep. It's hard for us to talk positively about that person or that situation and to find neutral ground. I know that, because I know that experience. All of a sudden I can only think negative thoughts, and now I think I can never trust this person again, and I start criticizing, and there's mistrust. And if I'm honest, if you feel that way, I can really understand from a human point of view. rejection and disappointment really makes us bitter. You know this thinking, do as you were done by? Just like Lucas disappointed me, I will also be disappointed. It's like an ace up our sleeve. I don't know if you know card games. For example, in Skat, the ace in the game is to take a trick. It's for winning the game. The ace is really showing, you know what, I have control. And bitterness and disappointment is like this ace up our sleeves, where we decide, well, you hurt me and I will hurt you. I will decide to play my ace and take a trick on you. Because when people are hurt, they hurt people. I was hurt and I hurt Lucas. I played my ace and I said to him, you will never be happy about my gifts, right? I will not give you an advent calendar if you won't be happy about my advent calendar. And I started rubbing my pain into his face. I will show you that that wasn't okay. So now this pain that I was feeling, you'll have to feel. I'll start doing as you did by me. And then the problem of an individual, my own pain, becomes a burden for others as well. And that's how bitterness starts to also ruin relationships. Because what's happening in the heart of an individual will also influence relationships, small groups. Maybe you know people in your small group where you feel like all of a sudden the mood just shifts when they say something. When they say something, you just feel, well, that person couldn't forgive the other person. Or maybe at family Christmas dinners, maybe you hear people speak and you just really feel that there's like a bad mood in the house, bad atmosphere. Maybe in your marriage or in your church. A lot of times churches split up because of bitterness and unforgiveness. Or maybe at work, I know that sometimes when there's a person, like this one person in the room, it's just really hard to take because bitterness really took root in my heart and it starts ruining relationships. And my disappointment also did that with my relationship with Lucas. And I was just so angry with Lucas. Don't you think it's understandable that I'll play my ace and take that trick on you? I'll bring this topic up again and again and I'll let you know that it really, really hurt me what you did. But that's not God's way of doing things. That's not God's lifestyle. And that's not His wish for your life. He has something else planned for you. And the author of the letter to the Hebrews, he wrote this letter to Christians. And those Christians really didn't have an easy life. They were persecuted. And they really believed in the gospel. And they must have thought, how is it possible that people persecute us because of our faith? And he gives them this one tip about bitterness and not letting bitterness take root in their life. And he gives us this one very practical tip. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God. Take care that everybody knows that God is gracious. And all of a sudden I realized that God had really a good reason to be angry with me. It's very understandable if God would be saying, you know what you've done and all those mistakes you've made in your life, you know what, I'm done. I'm not interested anymore in you. It would be understandable if God would be saying, hey, I'm angry with you. Those mistakes that you keep making, where you have unforgiveness in your life, and where you say, I don't need you, God. Where you say, God, I can do everything by myself. I would totally understand if God would be saying, so, Marie, what you did there, I cannot forget that. this disappointment, you know what, I cannot see past it. Or if God would be saying, I'll need some time to heal this pain first. Or if God would be saying, you cannot even believe how much you've hurt me. Or if he'd be saying, you know what, I would love to forgive you, but I just can't. You know, I would really understand if God would be saying that, but God doesn't do that. God is gracious with me. God is gracious with you. We experience His grace when He forgives our mistakes, and He even forgets them. He doesn't even keep thinking about them. You know, you and I, we are forgiven. And I believe that there's this one big truth. We cannot control what other people do, but we can control how we react to it. The author of the letter to the Hebrews gives us this one tip to really see to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, that nobody misses out on the grace of God. Focus on that, because God is so gracious with your and my mistakes, and with that mistake of that person that hurt you. God is gracious with you and with me and with them, and we cannot control what other people do, but we can control how we react. And the author invites us that we respond with grace. Let go of bitterness and pass on God's grace. Live with His grace and be gracious with yourself and with the disappointment that you felt, like for me, and with the disappointment that this gift didn't plan out as I hoped it would. And let's say I'm gracious with others so that I see to it that no one falls short of the grace of God. And how does this look practically? How can I pass on God's grace and not stay in bitterness? And that's where I would like to read the second verse to us. That gives us some practical insights on how we can get rid of bitterness in our lives. And this verse is in Ephesians 4, verses 31 to 32. We have a Bible and we can read this together. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you. Get rid of bitterness. Look into situations that made you bitter and get rid of them. Look at those situations where people hurt you and forgive them. If you know, well, I've become really bitter about this situation, about this person, about God, get rid of it. Talk about it. Call it by its name. And really talk about it and say, this is a situation that really made me bitter. This one small situation at Lucas's birthday really got me to be bitter. And I just would always cling to the situation, but I want to call it by its name and get rid of bitterness. I don't want to stay captive to the situation. I don't want to stay captive to this thinking that nothing will ever change, but I want to receive the freedom that Jesus has for us, because He wants to take away this pain from us. He wants to show us that there's freedom and that bitterness and bitter roots are not what we're destined to live by. And one very practical thing that might not be very easy in situations where you became bitter, but one thing we can do is, well, just as I was forgiven, I want to be forgiving and gracious and kind, and I want to start praying about that person that hurt me. And maybe it's not going to happen overnight where you see, oh, a miracle happened and something changed, but it's something that really helps to get rid of that root that would take place in your heart, because prayer really changes something in our hearts. It always shows us that God alone can do these things. I also believe that this text also shows us something else. There's this invitation not to remain bitter, but to experience sweet forgiveness. Let's decide not to say, I'll do as I was done by, I will, you know, where we think, well, I'm gonna hurt that person that hurt me, I'm gonna play my ace. No, the Bible verse says, do something else. Do something very different. Do the opposite. Don't respond with bitterness, but with grace and with compassion. Don't start talking badly about that person, but show kindness. Decide not to take vengeance, but to forgive. And the important thing here is, and the amazing thing is, we don't have to generate our own forgiveness. No, but we can pass on what we have received. Jesus forgave me. Jesus looked at me with gracious eyes, and he saw all my mistakes, and he would have had the right to be angry with me, but he responds with forgiveness. He doesn't count anything against me anymore. I'm forgiven, you're forgiven. Everything is forgiven. And he doesn't only forgive, but he also forgets. I believe that when we live in forgiveness, we also walk in giving forgiveness. So that we can decide that that person that hurt me, that I can say to that person, I will not play my ace. I will not take this trick on you. I will decide to say, I forgive you. I don't want to count it against you anymore. I don't want to rub it in your face anymore, how you've hurt me. But I say no to that, and I will look at you friendly and with kindness, and I want to become compassionate, and I want to pass on the forgiveness that I've received, and I want to count anything against you anymore. And that's how also I could do it with the situation with Lucas. I wouldn't count it against him anymore. I wouldn't bring it up again when he did something wrong. I would not bring the situation up again. I will forgive the situation. He doesn't owe me a thing anymore. So to this topic, let go of bitterness, I believe this verse in Hebrews really fits. I want to see to it that no one falls short of the grace of God. And I believe in those situations where we decide for sweet forgiveness instead of bitterness, people will be captivated by the love of God. And maybe during this sermon you had to think of a special situation, of a certain person, or maybe you had to think about a certain phrase that was said to you that really made you bitter. And I want to ask you today, trick or treat, will you decide to receive the sweet forgiveness that you've also received that probably changed your life as well? Or will you say, I want to remain bitter, I will remain in bitterness? And I hope and I pray that you will be captivated by the forgiveness that Jesus hands out to you, and that you decide to get rid and let go of that bitterness and to forgive just as I was forgiven by Jesus. And I want to give you a situation, like a moment right now, to think about a person or maybe a situation that got you angry, that made you bitter, where something started to, like a root was starting to take hold in your life of bitterness. And I want to invite you to say today, I will let go of bitterness and I'll pass on forgiveness. Take some time and be honest with yourself and with God. Ask Him to help you to pass on His forgiveness. It's not your forgiveness that you have to generate, but it's this all-overwhelming forgiveness that God has shown us. Jesus, I thank you. When we look at you, we really do see your grace. And I'm thankful that you were gracious with us, and you are still gracious with us. You were gracious with us at any point in time. And thanks that we can see what forgiveness is when we look at you. Thanks for forgiving me. Thanks for forgiving us. With all the small and with the large things in our lives. You know, where there are situations in our hearts where we just had to think of a situation or a person that we feel bitterness towards, where we are angry. Jesus, you see what we just thought of, and you see those places in our lives that we don't live the way that you had intended for us. And I pray that we can just grab your forgiveness and that this bitterness cannot take any more root. And I pray that you help that person to take this step to receive forgiveness and also to pass it on and to say to themselves, I'm going to let go of bitterness and I will not let this take root in my life, but I want to be freed from that. And thank you that forgiveness really brings freedom and joy, and we want to experience this in the situations that we just thought of. Do something new. Bring forgiveness into these situations. Bring new joy and a new ease and new hope. Because you are the one above all things. You're in control and you can change situations. And what you touch becomes new. And I pray for every heart that's become bitter or hard. And I ask you to just place your hand on that heart. Soften it and really let your forgiveness move in and take hold. Amen. Let go of bitterness and pass on God's forgiveness. Amen.